L.B. Brown's legacy as a community leader, home builder, and highly successful businessman is remarkable. However, when considered with the context of his enslaved birth and lack of formal education, his achievements become even more significant. The story of the man, his legacy, and his home coming up next on Polk Place. Welcome to Polk Place. I'm your host, Jeremy Morady, and with me today is Clifton Lewis, the curator of the L.B. Brown House in Bartow, and Stephen Cox, who is with the City of Bartow. So thank you guys so much for coming on in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about L.B. Brown's significance, and there are, I'm sure, some folks out there who don't know who he is. If you might not be from the area, but he played a great part in our county's history. So if you can, kind of give us an overview of who he was and what he did.
Yeah, L.B. Brown came to Bartow from Alachua County sometime in the late 1880s, and he built a number of homes in East Bartow area. We estimate perhaps in his lifetime, he probably built 75 to 100 houses, one of which was his family home, the little two-story mansion that is now on L.B. Brown Avenue. The home itself is magnificent structures, very beautiful, very solidly built, and we get a lot of tourists coming through from time to time.
So now, he was born, you said, 1850s, correct?
Yes.
And what did it look like then, Florida as a state, having only been, you know, in the really not that long as part of the United States, and Polk County at that point was fairly new. What did that look like, that landscape that he came into?
Very interesting you should ask. You know, Bartow is in the area known as the Peace River frontier. And during that period of time, the 1850s and all, this area was very sparsely populated. In fact, you were still going through the Third Seminole Indian War in that period of time. So there were not very many settlers here. Alachua County was more populated. The frontier sort of stopped right around Tampa and Bartow during the time that he was born. It was in the 1870s, when phosphate was developed, that the settlers really began flocking in here. And then, of course, with the discovery of phosphate, the railroad came in to take the ore out, and you had railroad workers and mine workers, and so a lot of folks started coming in during that 1880s, and it was that time when Brown came here from Alachua and Volusia County.
So at that point he came in and his trade was building homes. How did he get that education?
We don't know.
Okay.
In fact, Brown was a typical Florida pioneer. Yes, he built homes, but he also had a number of other trades. He silvered mirrors, he repaired and made umbrellas, he dug wells, he sold Bibles, and then of course he was sort of a banker, if you will. He loaned money and collected money at a pretty good interest rate. So he was an entrepreneur and a typical Florida pioneer.
Well, I know, I mean, it's a heck of an attraction to come out. If you're a history buff, I love going to that kind of stuff. And it's really a unique jewel in Bartow. Stephen, can you tell us a little bit about, you know, the city of Bartow's role in the preservation of the home and what it means to the city?
Yes, well, thank you. The city of Bartow has really rallied behind the efforts that the NIC, Neighborhood Improvement Corporation, has you know, really kind of taken the lead to preserve the L.B. Brown House. And the city has continued to, you know, fund the restoration as well as the just the day-to-day to maintain the property as it currently stands today. So it really sees it as a cultural and historical asset for the community, and it's really making sure that it's here for a long time.
Wonderful. Well, now, that house, it's so unique Is it the only one that's left that he had built?
No, no. In fact, L.B. Brown, we acquired one of his rental houses and had it relocated to the back of the Brown house. It's about an 1,100 square foot bungalow, 6 rooms, and it's available for tourists to walk through. The rental house, as we call it, is not in itself on the National Register. The big house is, but it's a part of the complex now. And there are a number of other houses, perhaps I would estimate 10 or 15 little bungalows throughout East Bartow that L.B. Brown used to own and that he built.
Well, now, in that, can you tell us a little bit about how, when he came here, his family and his way of life here a little bit?
Sure. Well, you know, it's interesting that when L.B. Brown came here, he was single. He came with his mother. He had been married before, but we believe that his first wife died in Volusia County. And when he came here in the late 1880s, it was just him and his mother, Catherine. And of course, Brown is a quintessential Floridian. His father was a black man, had been a slave, and he married a Native American. So Mr. Brown's mother, Catherine, was a Native American. And so it was very, very interesting. He came here, and in fact, he built the house mostly for his mother because he was not married at the time that he built the house in 1892.
Okay. Now, you guys have all this history, and it's absolutely beautiful for anyone to, you know, check out if they're in the Bartow area. But now it is on the National Register of Historic Places. And you guys also made a recent donation that is drawing a little bit of national attention. You want to tell us about that?
That's correct. The staff of the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture came through the various states, including Florida, about 2 years ago, looking for artifacts that they might want to display in the new museum in Washington, D.C. And they came to us. Dr. Deborah Mack and John Franklin of the Smithsonian staff came to us and said that they would like to do a video presentation of the L.B. Brown house. They had no intention of moving the house to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And during the course of their visit, they became aware that Mr. Brown indeed left very deep footprints. Not only did he leave a lot of documents and ledger books, but some of the brick and masonry work, the pillars, the foundation stone that he made, he actually engraved his initials in those blocks. And so we happen to have several of them, and the Smithsonian became very excited and asked us to donate one of the stones, the foundation stones that held the houses up, if we would donate it, and we did, along with photographs of Mr. Brown in the house itself. Those artifacts were taken to Washington, D.C. The truck came down about a year ago to pick them up. And it's our understanding that in the intervening 2 years, the Smithsonian has collected over 40,000 artifacts for that museum, of which only about 3,000 currently on display. So our contributions are up there, but they're in a crate down in the basement somewhere, but they're in that new museum, and we're hoping that in time
As things kind of turn over a little bit. And
yeah. Well, in the meantime, we also want to make sure that while they're kind of excited about the foundation stone, we would like for them to also get copies of some of Mr. Brown's documents. He left some very, very detailed handwritten notes. The 1890s haircut contract, where he contracted with Reverend Lynch the barber to cut his hair every 2 weeks for 1 year for $2.50 for the entire year. He left a rent-to-own contract with a gentleman named Ben Knight that he drew up in the 1890s. $5 a month rent, and after about 9 months, once I've collected $45, Ben, I'm going to convert this rental into a sale and make you a homeowner. So he was a pioneer in the rent-to-own process, and all of this is documented in L.B. Brown's handwriting. This is what makes his story so compelling. It's not just anecdotal, it's all documented.
wow, that's impressive. Well, can't wait to get back over and visit with you guys again. And you know, if anybody's in the Bartow area, it's such a treat to go by and see. It's so unique, something that you're really not going to get in many places like that.
Let me just say that it was our pleasure. The week before the grand opening on the 17th, we had a special invitation to a pre-grand opening event And so it was my distinct pleasure to go into that museum in Washington, D.C., the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and it is a spectacular temple. It is my guess that it will probably become some kind of create some kind of a pilgrimage where folks will feel they just got to visit it at least once because the building has great, great significance. But you must make an appointment before going.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
It's very popular now. So, well, thank you guys so much for coming in and sharing this with us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The L.B. Brown House was designed and constructed in 1892 by a self-taught master carpenter, Lawrence Bernard Brown. The home that he built has 9 rooms. It has an impressive 2-story structure with a generous amount of Victorian ornamentation. Located at 470 L.B. Brown Avenue, formerly 2nd Avenue in Bartow, stands a living testimony to one person's triumph over adversity. Visitors may tour the exterior of the home anytime, and tours of the interior may be scheduled by calling 863-944-6136 or check them out on the web at www.lbbrown.com.